At the end of the last video, Nate and I were killing time in the West Yellowstone Grizzly and Wolf Discovery Center while we waited for his parents to arrive. They had gotten an Airbnb in town. We stayed with them for a couple of days. We met them in a local park that was having a little festival. We wandered the festival until lunch, and then after lunch, it was check-in time. The house was amazing. The downstairs, where I stayed, had its own kitchen, restroom, game room, and bedroom. Pit Stop had made it into town. He shared the downstairs bedroom with me for the first night. West Yellowstone had its own rodeo. As a group, the 5 of us went to the shindig. In just a week's time, Nate went from having never been to a rodeo to proudly stating, "This is not my first rodeo." Town chores were easy. The Airbnb had a laundry room, and there were multiple stores and outfitters to get a resupply. The next day, Pit Stop headed back to the trail, and I worked on the last video. Nate and his parents visited Yellowstone. I even had some time to explore before Nate and his parents returned. When they did, we all went out to dinner. Thanks for the dinner, folks. When Nate and I left town the next morning, it was on the Big Sky Alternate. Some people refer to it as the Butte Supercut. The shortcut is a 200-mile direct route from West Yellowstone to Butte, and it passes through the town of Big Sky and Whitehall. It avoids a big 500-mile semicircle along the Montana-Idaho border. It was first created in 2009. Like the CDT, the Supercut is kind of a choose-your-own-adventure. We chose a route created by a group called the Keebler Crew back in 2022. It was nice because it included water sources, campsites, and other waypoints, so it wasn't just a red line. I loaded the Keebler Crew GPX file into the app Gaia GPS. The first 13 miles was an asphalt road walk out of town on the 191/287. Pretty quickly, we discovered the Jeep trail that paralleled the asphalt of 191, so we followed that when we could. It appears that the Jeep trail, which the signage calls the Big Sky Trail, went almost all the way to Big Sky. If I were to do it again, and I'm absolutely not going to, I would probably walk the trail to Big Sky instead of hiking over the mountain. That added a day. Right before leaving the 191, which by the way goes straight to Big Sky, we saw this sign, but we didn't see any little crosses it referred to. On the 287, we didn't get to walk a comfortable Jeep trail. Instead, we were forced to walk on the asphalt again. While on the asphalt, I heard bird calls from a large nest atop a pole. Getting up close, I could see the osprey had made the nest their home. This ranch was called Parade Rest. I bet the owner was ex-military. I spent a lot of time at Parade Rest in the Army. I didn't see any bison in Yellowstone, or for that matter, on this road. I rested in the shade of these informational signs. The area was rocked by a massive earthquake in 1959. The quake caused 28 deaths. Some of the deaths were attributed to the lake sloshing over the shoreline residences. On the shore of the lake, we turned down a dirt road towards Red Canyon Trailhead. There were lots of signs reminding us we were in bear territory. The little road was dotted with great dispersed campsites. At about the 16-mile mark, we got to the trailhead and were walking on a proper trail again. We followed Red Canyon Creek back up to elevation. Late in the day, I filled up at this great creek-provided fill spout. I'd be dry camping, so I carried all that heavy water for 4.5 miles to my camp spot at over 9,000 feet after a 23.4-mile day. We did a little more than the Keebler Crew on that first day. We'd be competing with them all the way to Butte. That night, I had Mountain House chicken tikka masala for the first time. It was awesome. I'm going to have to keep an eye out for it going forward. On day 2, we discovered that the Big Sky Alternate wasn't just a boring, easy road walk to shorten our mileage. Instead, it had challenging and breathtaking vistas like this one at the pass before Monument Mountain. I sat there for a good long time. I had signal, so I called Julie, extending my break so I could really soak in the sights. The view from atop Monument Mountain was also amazing. This bit of trail gave me Colorado High Route vibes. To get to the top of Monument Mountain, just over 10,000 foot, took 7 miles. After that, it was 10 miles downhill to another road at under 7,000 feet. The pastures on the way down were gated by these complex rustic contraptions. On the bottom was a campsite obviously meant for horseback riders. I've seen these boxes before. They're used for shorter people to mount up. I got to the road about 15 till 6. To tie the end of our day 2 with the Keeblers, we just needed to hike 4 more miles, but we had hiked 4 extra miles the day before, So in my mind, I needed to go at least 8 miles. I noticed there was a steakhouse just an additional 1.5 miles beyond that. I figured a steak would be a great reward for beating the Keebler crew 2 days in a row. I told Nate my plan and put it in high gear. I thought Nate was on board. I was a little concerned the restaurant wouldn't serve us since we arrived right before closing. When I got reception, I called them and they confirmed I'd get my steak. I passed that info on to Nate, only to discover he'd already put up his tent in a nice campsite on Forest Service land. All along the way, I spotted the foreshadowed white crosses. Well outside Big Sky proper, I got to the welcome sign. It drove me on to my destination. Oh, the steak was great. The hospitality of the bartender was unequaled. After the meal, I had a daunting task of finding a tent site in suburbia. I found a meadow that appeared to be a pond on the map. It was adjacent to the road where I could hide my tent. Unfortunately, it was lit by a security light from someone's property high up on the hill. For obvious reasons, I got up early. At 8 a.m., I'd gotten to an Exxon station after a 80-minute and 4-mile walk. I got some coffee and a donut while I waited for Nate. We walked into Big Sky proper together. We both marveled at this roof. We ate a hiker-sized breakfast at Cafe 191 before heading over to the grocery store and outfitter. The plan was to walk right through Big Sky and not stay the night, and thereby get a full day ahead of the Keebler crew's timetable. Besides, staying in Big Sky was expensive. Once resupplied, we got lunch at the far edge of town. We were still pretty full from breakfast. We put Big Sky in the rear view before 3 p.m. If you were wondering what came first, the town or the state slogan, Big Sky or Big Sky Country slogan has been used by Montana since the 60s, while the resort town of Big Sky wasn't incorporated until the 70s. It was nice to be back in the mountains. We'd go back up to 10,000 feet in the first 10 miles out of Big Sky. I ran into a couple on the climb up who said all the troublesome bears from Yellowstone are resettled into these mountains. We ran into the first solo Sobo hiker that afternoon. He told me he thought the view from the upcoming pass would be magnificent, but I wasn't sure why it would be for me and not for him. When I got to the pass, I found out why. Smoke made the sun blood red. The red sun over the ragged ridge looked otherworldly. Spotting a marmot on a pass is always fun. The climb down was steep and worrisome. I had to pull out my trekking pole to ensure I didn't fall off the mountain walking on that loose scree. We camped at the first flat spot after the first water source. What a great sight. Although we missed our goal of making the end of our day 3 match up with the end of Keebler crew's day 4 by about 1.5 miles. The Keebler crew's camp was good, but I think ours was better. The wood atop this bridge was loose and gave me quite a fright. It was early and I wanted to make good time, but I should have stopped and had a swim here. I guess this was a lucky spot. I started to notice smoke was affecting our views. By 6:30, the smoke was so bad I could taste it. Keebler crew route had us bushwhacked through some kind of abandoned training camp near the end of the day. In the bushwhack section, I got a hole in the shirt that Adam loaned me. I got chapped lips for the first time in a long time, and Nate had to stop for a long time because of a bloody nose. He hadn't gotten one of those for a long time also. We think it was the hot, dry, and smoky air that was starting to give us trouble. We camped at the end of day 4 at the same spot the Keebler crew camped at the end of day 5. We were so proud of ourselves. In my tent I had signal, so I read my email. I found out Harold, my next door neighbor, had died. Harold was a Boy Scout leader and helped out on Dawson's first Boy Scout backpacking trip. He also did a pre-PCT shakedown hike with me before slack packing the first 2 days of the PCT through hike back in 2023. Julie was able to attend the celebration of life. Hardcore Harold is hiking ahead. Thanks for clearing the spider webs from the trail for us. Had a quick breakfast so I could get to a privy at the bottom of the hill. I waited there for Nate. We walked together along the shore of Enos Lake.
Oh, we could swim out to the island.
She's traveling.
Oh, okay.
We kept waiting for the perfect spot to go swimming. The very last opportunity before we left the lake, we made do with a less than ideal swimming spot. The upside was a free-range dog that loved going in the water to fetch. We both blew up our mats to find holes, but of course floated around on them afterwards. I didn't think pelicans were inland lake birds. Most of the rest of the day was spent walking well-groomed dirt roads under a smoky sky. The sky was so smoky the sun didn't even cast a shadow. We were coughing and getting sore throats. We did have to leave the road for a bit to climb over a mountain. On the way up, I stopped to filter water and discovered this guy next to my foot. I guess he was curious about what I was doing. At the top, I called my dad. After hearing about Harold, I really wanted to talk to my dad. From the top, we bushwhacked down the other side to join the road/trail on the other side. Surprisingly, we ran into a benchmark in the middle of the woods. It was nowhere near the trail or a road. We got water right before a great campsite where our mileage pretty much matched up with the Keebler crew. Ironically, despite hiking and smoke for days, I wanted a campfire. It was a tough day and I was worn out. A fire was so relaxing. The site had a rustic picnic table right next to the river, which was convenient. I saw there was a pit toilet a short distance away, so once again I got up before Nate to take advantage of the facility. Normally the smoke seems to be better in the morning, but it was already bad. I woke up with a headache and a sore throat, which made making it to the top of the first climb tough. At the top, I got signal, so I called Julie. Beyond the headache and sore throat, I just felt odd, like I was coming down with something. I figured it was just the smoke. From the top of the pass, I could see the remnants of Nicholson Mine. It's supposed to be inactive since the 50s, although there's a new shipping container at the end of a fancy new gravel road. On the way down, I saw lots of evidence of Tobacco Root Mountains mining past. I came to a river where the Keebler crew said they had a bridge, but there was no sign of a bridge. Do you suppose it was completely wiped from existence in just 4 years? It's nice when the cows get out of your way instead of obstinately staring at you, unmoving. On this dirt road, I caught up to Nate. We slowly started seeing signs of civilization. First, it was just campsites and a restroom, and then some kind of settlement called Mammoth. But then we turned off the road to climb over a mountain. We said goodbye to humanity for a little while. On the climb up, the smoke was so bad, and since I had signal, I looked up the AQI. Very unhealthy. We were walking, huffing and puffing all day in this stuff. Nate and I thought we were going crazy. We'd see little white flakes falling from the sky, but then I was able to follow some of it all the way to the ground. I couldn't believe it. Ash was falling on us. This kind of freaked out Nate. We were in the mountains, so we couldn't tell if the fire was just over the ridge. So we should have probably just set up camp and hoped for better air in the morning. We kept going. We did the 24.5 miles the Keebler crew did, but then kept going. We nearly started a stampede. On the first well-groomed dirt road, the train opened up and we could see there was no fire nearby. Whew! If we kept walking, perhaps someone would give us a ride to town. We figured if we were inside, hotel air conditioning would filter the air some. Since we had signal, I looked up the AQI. It peaked at 289. That's nearly at hazardous level. Crazy. Whitehall is a sleepy town and no one was driving on the back roads. We were walking. Obviously we didn't get a ride. Instead, after an additional 4 miles, we set up a little camp in the dark next to an abandoned train line, like hobos from yesteryear. My tent wasn't hidden as well as Nate's, so I got up early. I walked to Waterloo Road, accompanied by deer and sand cranes until I reached the Jefferson River. There I had breakfast and waited for Nate. Sunrise with blood red again. Look, another nesting platform. After 2.8 miles, we came to State Route 55, where we stood our grounds and waited for a ride. We didn't have to wait long. A miner getting off from his night shift gave us a ride to the only hotel in Whitehall. Surprisingly, even though they weren't done serving their complimentary breakfast, they let us check in and even partake from their morning bounty. We spent 2 nights in Whitehall, but it felt like 3 because we got there so early. Snake count, 9. I added just one more to the list in this section. A little snake wiggled into the high grass here. Trail stop checklist. Big Sky, check. Whitehall, check.